go listen to it. Oh, it is. Okay. They want $10 to go.
All right, it's a little bit past 6 p.m. here on Tuesday, January the 23rd. Time for our scheduled City Council meeting. We'll call this meeting to order and ask that we all rise. And we have with us this evening Pastor Dean Akins, and I would ask him to lead us in an invocation.
Father God, once again, we're so thankful that we've had another day to rejoice in you, and thank you for allowing us to live on another day in this great country of ours. It's been so blessed. We're so thankful. Tonight, as we begin this meeting, we just want to commend these men and women who have been given the responsibility of caring for us and our community. We commit them to you, Lord. Thank you for their lives and their service, and for all your love and grace to us. We just give you praise and thank you in the lovely name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Dean. Clerk Cottonero, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Hughes. Here. Alderman Curry-Witzman. Here. Alderman Brown. Absent. Alderman Voss.
Here.
Alderman McComb.
Here.
Alderman Urbis.
Here.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Bastian.
Here.
Alderman Campos.
Here.
Alderman Pittman.
Here.
Thank you all for your attendance this evening. Joyce, I think that's the best roll call you've ever done.
That's good. It's my last one.
That's right.
I figured it out.
That's right. So, again, appreciate
Good. Joyce did good.
That's right. We appreciate your service and appreciate you being here tonight, as well as everybody else, members of the council. And we'll get into our agenda here. First, we have the consideration of council minutes from January the 9th, 2018, and I'd entertain any amendments to the minutes. Hearing none, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the consideration of accounts payable registers, and they include list number 652, I believe, is the only list this evening. Entertain any questions on those bills?
I have one question.
Mr. Pittman.
On page 4, and I spoke with Sandra, and she was going to verify to the sheriff's office down at the bottom for gasoline. It just struck me odd that it was the same exact price for the police and public works. I want to verify that those billing amounts were correct before this.
That's a good catch. Honestly, we probably ought to hold that until we get some verification on it, because the chances of that seem very low.
Pretty odd number.
Ms. Campos?
Thank you. Page 2, same list. Senior Citizens Center, an expense of $366.97.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's from the plumbers trying to install the pipes.
Oh, they had some frozen pipes, didn't they?
That's the plumber?
I think so, and they didn't get it installed, but I put a heater on it that evening and got it all installed, so it nothing froze or broke. It comes out of the ground in between the walls,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just from where they put the brick on the outside and then cover the windows good enough. It's just like turning on air conditioning in there with a draft that was going through it, and
Yeah.
the pipe come out. So I put a heater in it, and when we closed at 3:30 and come back at 9 o'clock at night, and that had thawed that out, and they haven't had any problems since. So,
Anything they could do to make sure it doesn't happen in the future?
well, we're gonna insulate over the pipes and put some insulation down through there so it keeps them out. Some of them are insulated, but where it come out of the ground, there was no insulation installed.
Okay, very good.
Same list,
Uh-huh.
A, B, and C. Page 7, taps, auto service, van repair.
I was curious about that myself. I assume the code van had a breakdown of some kind, Eric?
Yeah, those were the repairs I was talking about on the front end.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions on the bills? Ms. Hughes?
Yes, on page 2 of that same register, I don't know where the e-Metrotel is for $1,800.
E-Metrotel?
Uh-huh.
Sounds like some sort of support service for telephones. Brian Manwaring's not here, but
Who's
Sandra's.
118, Sandra? Is that IT? Okay. Yeah, I would think
It's what?
that, yes, probably should.
IT. What's IT?
Internet.
Oh, internet, okay.
And also, this one, Chief can probably answer. Juvenile officer training, who did we send there?
Chase Rednauer, an additional thing they offer the
Oh,
academy
that's
now.
our new person.
Yeah, they offer supplemental training we can get on the front end.
Okay.
It's something we-
Thank you. Also on that same page 7, tax auto, oh, you already got that, never mind. That's all I have, thank you.
Mr. Bratton?
Page 1, aluminum totes. I've been
That's
told this
Jim.
before, but my memory's gone.
That's the chemical. Which one?
Okay. On page 3, for the backhoe fund, I thought we approved and paid that bill previous.
We did, but it was paid to the power plan, which is the financing company for Herb. But this one was actually purchased in-house, so we ended up having to void that check and reissue this one.
But that'll still go on last year's business.
No.
That's what because there was money left in the budget, I think, for that fund, and that's the reason we wanted to be on last year. Am I correct, Darren? Yeah.
I don't think we can.
It can't be last year because it's this year.
Right.
Well, okay, I just want to make note then, if we run $5,000 or whatever that is, $4,402.82 over, we'll all know why.
Next year.
Okay.
We'll all forget by then, but it's okay. I know you won't.
On page 5, for the medical records,
Without going into too much detail, we've got a sexual assault investigation. We need the medical records of the victim.
okay.
The doctor refuses to release them without charging. That's the first time I've ever run into it, but it's their right. So,
Okay.
we gotta have it for prosecution.
And I assume on page 6, this hitch repair to the high school, they fixed the hitch and the parts was probably $10, so I've got some more here. Page 10. Taste of chocolate table sponsor.
Yeah, I could speak to that one. I talked to the police chief, and the Women's Center in Carbondale hosts an event once a year, and I was approached by John Pfeiffer, who is one of their chief fundraisers, essentially, and I talked to Chief Roberts, and we utilize their services, I don't know how frequently, but quite often in situations where we have domestic situations and whatnot, and they've just been a really good partner. Chief, you could probably speak to this better than I can.
The Women's Center provides victim services for domestic violence and sexual assault, and it's really the only center here that does. They're actually written into my new sexual assault policy, which the Attorney General requires, and under our new laws, and we have a memorandum of understanding with them that I sign every year. And they provide the services at no cost, and to be honest, our victims would have no resource without the Women's Center.
The only other question I have is for the gas reimbursement, and I'm doubting it on page 3.
I assume you're talking about Alderman McComb.
What?
Yeah.
But just asking where you travel
I'm sure
to,
you
Gary.
ran
Well,
picked
that's
stuff up.
that's about 3 trips to Carpendale with TVs and stuff, and then the kids
Okay.
around town.
I figured it
The
was something like
cemetery and the
that.
kids around town.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions on the accounts payable register? Entertain a motion to approve with the only pending one being the sheriff's office
So
gasoline.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us into our regular committee and commission reports. And the first up are the Budget and Finance, chaired by Mr. W.J. Pittman. W.J., I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Alright, there's nothing under old business, under new business, start with budget-related reports prepared by Scott Evans, Budget Officer.
In your hands, you have the group of reports that I had in the packet. I'll start with those. So the first page is the sales tax report. So the sales tax and home road tax that we have out there for this month in, as you can see, it's 272,000, which is the highest January that we've had in the last 7 years. So that's somewhat encouraging. And that's even after the 2 or 3% admin fee is already been deducted. You know, that's about $3,500, something like that. So it would have been even higher if we were comparing apples to apples across all these years. That just started the last few months of last year. So that's encouraging. The next page, however, is a little discouraging, I guess, because as I've been kind of warning you, the income tax receipts will probably be going down because the state of Illinois is keeping a larger share of that and giving us less under the new plan. And so our voucher amount for this month is $60,565. So that's not the lowest we've had for a January, but it's on the lower end. So that's
Last 6 years.
we'll keep monitoring that. But the good news is that they pay that within 2 weeks, so we don't have any more of this lag time. I guess that was part of the deal. They had to keep that caught up. So anyway, and then the next page is essentially just shows you the 2017 report for the last month. A lot of the same numbers, just in different columns. And you know, we were vouchered for $732,000. Now, if you look at our financials for 2017, we actually received 14 payments. So that was a little higher than normal, but again, that was to kind of catch up the backlog in anticipation of this new bill. The state did that. So anyway, that's the income tax receipts. The next page is essentially 3 or 4 times a year. I'll let you guys see where we are at with our loan balances. Of course, these all happen to be general fund. This does not include the 2 loans that we have with EPA for the water line replacement and the sewer fund. This is just the general fund things, which normally don't show up on the regular financials like those water sewer loans do. So, so the street cleaner loan is at $44,784. 16 more payments to go, so a little more than a year. The backhoe loan, which obviously was a year and a half or so newer, is at $43,000, and it was a smaller starting amount too. But it's got about 32 payments, so just short of 3 years on that one. And then of course our line of credit, I just keep showing that just to remind you that we do have that, but there's no balance on it. And then we just have the 1 payment left on the dispatch loan, which will be due in June. So, and then that'll be paid for. So at this point, we have $166,384 on debt to the outside world on a general fund.
So that's just 1 payment instead of 12 remaining.
Yes, we don't pay it. We don't pay that one monthly actually, but I wanted to make it comparable to the other ones.
That's
so
fine.
it's just a 1 payment of $78,000.
That's in June 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the way to do that, because that was a 3-year 0% interest deal. So I mean, we had to take advantage of that. That's a pretty good deal. So that's so there's there's no there's no penalty for paying that early or anything like that, but there's no sense paying stuff in. Okay, let's see, the next page is the general fund operating expenses versus the budget. And this is through all 12 months. And so through 12 months, for the full year, we have $4,454,000 of actual expenditures. We budgeted $4,939,000, so we're ahead of budget there. And then we were slightly ahead of budget on the revenues as well. We received $5,245,000. Again, some of that's for having 2 extra income tax payments. And then of course our budget was for $4.9 million. And so we're to the good, $709,810 for the end of the year. Okay, so any questions on that one? Yes, sir.
On line 1, did we sell back vacation and administration? The work. We're over.
That wouldn't be, if we did sell that vacations, that wouldn't show up in administration line, nothing.
Well, I guess most of the administration is, I mean, there's hourly, but I don't understand how we can be that much over.
I don't have the details of that in front of me. I can't tell you exactly what that would be. Do you have any ideas on that, Sandra? Or no? I can find out for you. I mean, I can always get that and find out.
I would appreciate it if you don't mind.
Yep, no problem. Then make a note of that. All right. Anything else in that report? Well, and part of the reason that you do see some positive numbers there is because, you know, we were kind of halfway planning on having some retroactive checks once the police contract was negotiated. And of course, that didn't happen by the end of the year, so that was less expensive than we thought. So, but overall, if you look at the third page of the budgeted versus actual payroll, we budgeted, this is citywide now, this includes water fund too, but we budgeted $3,260,000 across the city and all the different funds for payroll. And we actually spent $3,126,000, so we were about $134,000 towards that. So that's a good thing. Questions on that one? Okay, and then, let's see, next to final is the update on where we're at with the wastewater treatment plant. So, I think it was October, or maybe September when I presented this last. And so we've had a couple bills since then. One, a bill to River City and a bill to J.T. Blankenship. And so, at the end of December, the cumulative amount spent on the project was $16,938,000. So we're still under the $17 million mark. That's pretty good. Because, you know, we had very different outcomes on that, anywhere from 15 to 20 million, depending on how far we wanted to go with the construction of the plant. So I think we're in a pretty decent place there. But of that, we spent $2,423,000 of city money, and then $14,515,000 was put on the EPA loan. Which the balance is a little bit less than that because we've already made a payment or two on that. So anyway, that's that group of reports. The other one I brought to you tonight, which didn't make it to press in your packet. So it's essentially just the year-end snapshot of the various cash accounts in each of the funds that we have. So, so as of December 31st, we have $2,447,000 in cash. That was what I consider with no external restrictions that you know, it's city money with no strings attached as far as outside forces, so, and that's pretty good number. I look back the last couple of years, and that's a little higher than we've been, at previous year end, so that's not a bad thing. And then the next section, of course, is the funds that have external restrictions. So that's going to be your motor fuel money, your, you know, other water sewer guarantee, things that we can't just spend, you know, as we wish. That number is $3,837,000. So total cash to the city is $6,285,000 at the end of December. Any questions on those last two?
Scott, is there, excuse me, Scott, is there anything in terms of our financial picture right now that concerns you? I mean, I sometimes just like to sit here and I just think to myself, you know, I kind of like to get an overall grade.
Oh, no, well, let's put it in perspective, you know, I mean, compared to where we were, say, 10 years ago, A, absolute A. You know, and even if you compare it to other you know, periods in time, I think we're doing, you know, I'd say we're probably in a good B. You know, we do have considerably more cash than we did, you know, I said 10, 12 years ago. There's no question about that. But of course, we have some projects that are coming up too that are going to take some of that away. The project, the various thing, a road project, you know, to the sewer plant. Those are all things that, you know, we have plans to do. So that'll take some cash. It's not going to break us by any means, but those will take pretty good chunks of money. And you know, it's the contingencies that we can't think of, I guess, that always worry me too. It's like what's out there that we have missed, you know, but I think we're doing fairly well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Evans. The other item under new business, have discussion regarding the Village of Virginia's overbilling. I believe we have the contract in there between the city and the village. I'll turn that over to you, Mayor, because I wasn't here for the last meeting when that discussion started.
All right, just to summarize, for any of you that weren't here at the last meeting, the Village of Virgins has let us know that we have been overcharging them comparatively to the agreement that was entered into with them in 1995. It's a 40-year agreement, and we are essentially supposed to sell water to them at 10 cents per 1,000 gallons over what we pay in Kincaid. I think approximately we've been charging them 30 cents per 1,000 gallons over, and I don't really know why that is. This goes back to 2011 when we would have had Nancy still in the water billing office, and so I just don't know why it happened. Now, the only thing that I have to say about it further than that is that I met with Scott and Sandra earlier today, and we were just sort of brainstorming about this. And previously, about 10 years ago, we had been underbilling them, and there was an agreement reached that we would essentially just split the difference. I think we were owed $10,000, and we only accepted a $5,000 check in a spirit of getting along. And so my thought process is, I think they say that we owe them $23,000, approximately $23,670. I would think that it would be my thought, and it would be best for the city, frankly, for our cash flow, to offer them, say, half of that amount in a credit on their account. I assume they're going to continue to buy water from us, you know, regardless. We've still got quite a bit of time on that 40-year agreement. So if they want to accept that, that would be our first offer. And if they don't want to accept that, then I guess we could offer something else. But I'm open to other suggestions.
If they don't accept that, could we offer them the 18, the 23 minus the 5 that we agreed that they didn't have to pay us back then? When that?
We could certainly offer that, or any other amount we want to offer in the terms of just. I think that, you know, when we look at it, this wasn't, you know, some people say ignorance is no excuse. Well, it's the only one I got. Didn't know that it was happening, and there wasn't any malice behind it. And honestly, this brings to light something, this whole agreement, why at this time we're selling water to them at 10 cents over cost when for the village of Virgins, it'd be better off for them just to enter into their own agreement with Kincaid. But, that's a whole other sort of topic for discussion. I don't mind selling it to
Yeah, I
them.
guess it's better for us to.
It's better for us to keep selling it to them, but, there is some question about the,
Now,
Ms. Hughes?
this actual rate, I know that we've had the increase this year, for this year, of 13% or whatever it was, but I know this agreement was written up, 95 evidently.
Right.
Is that 241, was that correct all the way through there? Has anybody really checked on that? Yes. Okay. And actually, the rate that was billed to them has varied over since 2011. I mean, there were times that we were paying them under 10 cents over the amount.
But it's been the same since.
But it's been the same
2014.
since 14, yeah.
It's gonna change. So we got one.
I just don't know why it wouldn't have been the same amount the whole time.
He was just addressing whether they owed us
Oh,
$5,000,
I
and
don't
that's how we
know.
chose to get.
I don't know, did we choose to do that
Andrew,
by
no.
less?
Ms. Ripley?
I think what has happened is when Nancy, when our residents had an increase in their water bill, she gave an increase to this as well, unknowing to the contract.
I
That's what
see,
think is
okay,
happening.
that does make sense.
But
Yeah, if we had an increase of 2%, she increased this by 2%.
Yes, because we
That
typically
makes
would do
sense.
that in January.
And
so-
Yes.
each one of these increases were when
We had an increase, that makes a lot of sense, thank you, that really answers my question.
I don't know that to be true. I haven't talked to
I think we should offer them half.
Mr. Brett?
If that was the motion, I'll second, but I was getting ready to make the
I
motion.
would
We
make
offer
that
them
motion.
half. We wanna be fair with them, and they wanna be fair with us. 10 years ago, we sliced the bill in half. Let's do the same thing right now.
And are you saying that we write them a check for half, or that we apply
No, we
it?
just apply
I
it
think
to
we need
them.
to approach them first. I will
Okay.
tell you that their city president will not be back until the end of April.
It's okay, we can still put it out there, and I imagine
Yeah.
he'll get he'll get the information while he's in
Yeah,
Orlando.
that is true.
All right, so,
We'll make the offer.
Huh?
you want me to call this vote?
They went
Yeah,
to
well, we have a motion by Ms. Hughes and a second by Mr. Bratton.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain, I represent the village, so.
All right.
The last item under new business, is there any public comment under budget and finance? No public comment. Open your budget and finance.
All right, that takes us out of that, takes us to building and grounds. Alderman McComb?
Well, under old business, we got, had us with the railroad again, I guess.
I have been contacted by the railroad on an email by a lady saying that she would like to talk to me at times it's convenient, if I would give her some times if it's convenient. Well, rather than sending her an email back saying, how about right now, I did send her convenient times, including yesterday and today, and asked her to please contact me today before noon if she could, because we had a meeting tonight. Didn't hear from her. So I guess when she's ready to talk to me, she's gonna call. So give me a phone number to call her. I'm pretty big in this game so far, aren't I?
They have their own drummer, the railroad.
When did you receive that correspondence?
Monday, that started Monday. Well, yesterday. I received the, no, wait a minute, I may have received that email Friday.
And when do you recall we sent the letter saying we want to hear something within 30 days?
I think this was within the 30 days, at the very end of the 30 days. At the last meeting, we had.
9 days at the last
Days,
meeting.
yes, it is on the minutes, the exact date.
I don't know if that's
What are you gonna do, fire him?
significant,
He's late.
you know, I mean, every time we ever have a deal with the railroad, it's slow like this, but apparently they're gonna address what we wrote them about, so.
I just don't want this to become a a situation where there are sort of never-ending delays, and we, or I don't want us to become so patient in waiting upon their correspondence that we just delay the remedy for our residents, because I think that if they had a lengthy set of records on their maintenance, I think that they would have probably responded differently than.
That's what our thinking has been, and that's why we chose this topic to address them on first, to give them an opportunity to put on the table. And, we'll see, hopefully I'll see in that phone call, at least a summary of what they've got. They haven't sent me any records.
Okay. Well, I'm glad they communicated, but then at the same time, I'm a little bit surprised.
That's all we have under old business. Anybody, got anything under old business?
I do not.
And we have nothing under new business. Do we have any public comments on building and grounds?
I have a question. Have any of the residents affected received due bills or anything from the railroad to this point?
Not that I'm aware of at this point. I know that they were demanded that they sign leases, but nobody's done that yet. But there's still a pressing question, because there's an effort by the one family to get a loan on the property, and they can't get it until we get something worked out. So
Right.
it's not there is some urgency to it.
Okay.
There are no other public comment. We'll adjourn building and grounds.
Thank you, Alderman McComb. Takes us to Community Relations, Chairman John Urbis. John?
All right, no old business. One item of new business, request by St. Peter's Church to use Miser Plaza for Easter Sunrise service.
Date open, Sandra? I'd make a motion for that.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right. Any public comment? Now, we can move on.
Thank you, Mr. Urbis. That takes us to Public Improvement, chaired by Alderman Mike Bastian. Mr. Bastian?
Okay, I guess under old business, discussion regarding the status of the fence dispute on Division Street and potential civil action. I guess the first question that I may have, it's my understanding a ticket has been issued and there is a court date for violating. When is the court date there? You have no idea?
February 2nd.
February 2nd? Okay. I guess our next step, I guess my question maybe to Attorney Ed Heller is, can we go ahead and proceed with getting the fence removed, or do we have to wait until, I mean, the ticket was issued for a violation of city ordinance, so they either plead guilty or not guilty, and that's decided in court. We as a city council we can still go ahead and make a decision while that's, do we have to wait till the court date's over before we proceed with asking them to remove the fence? If that's the decision that's
I
made.
don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't looked at that question specifically. I assumed we would give them the ticket and see if they're gonna respond or not.
Right.
But I don't know that we have to wait till the ticket finishes.
Okay. Well, I guess the next step is we need to decide as a council what steps we want to take. Does any other alderman have anything that they would like to add to this?
So the ticket that item is separate, and that unto itself does not compel them to do anything about the fence, correct? I mean, it just addresses and is a penalty for not being compliant in putting up the fence. And so second issue entirely is if we want to take them to civil court and compel them to take down the fence. Is that correct?
I'm
Or
going to take down the fence without going to civil court.
I have a question. So do we, I guess I'm confused. If they violate the ordinance, it's clearly they violated the city ordinance. So before we say we're going to take them to civil court, why can't we send them a letter and give them so many days to remove that fence?
We can do that.
And then we can discuss if they refuse to do it. Then we as a city can discuss, do we want to proceed with civil court, which I'm in favor if they refuse to do it. But yes, Eric.
Mr. Jacobs did come in.
Okay, he did.
He didn't really say a whole lot.
Okay.
So we did discuss it.
Okay. Yeah, and I understand he was, I'm a little confused as to why everybody is talking to Mr. Jacobs when Miss Jacobs owns the property. He was the construction worker. So we really should be dealing, I think, with Miss Jacobs personally.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
So what did he say? I mean, what?
he wanted to know why we didn't communicate with his attorney. Of course, the ticket had to go to her, his daughter.
Well, how do we know
She
he
is the
had
one-
any different?
Her name is on the tax records, that's what our ordinance says.
Correct.
To the owner of the property.
And it's not our job to communicate. with
Yeah,
his attorney.
that's all he was talking about. There was nothing, very pleasant.
Good.
We got up and left. There wasn't much to it.
But you haven't heard from the property owner being Miss Jacobs, is that correct?
I've never talked to her, actually.
Okay.
I would like to see us send them a letter and ask them to remove the fence.
I think that would be a
Within,
good starter.
what, 30 days or?
Yeah, I would like to maybe make a motion, writing the attorney a letter recommending them to remove the fence within 30 days due to violation of, city ordinance, and then move from there.
Mr. Hiller?
Is our demand that they, I'm assuming our demand would be that they move the fence into compliance
Yeah.
with the survey,
Correct.
is what we're actually gonna demand, as opposed to, you can't have a fence.
Correct.
That's right.
Would that, I mean, that's a question I'm asking.
Yep, yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, that's the way the ordinance says. I mean, that's all we can do.
Well, no, what I mean is that.
We're not telling them they have to
We can
take the
tell them,
fence
we can
down.
tell them remove the fence.
Well, from the property that it doesn't
I
belong
don't
to them,
know.
yes?
They got a permit. I'm thinking out loud here. I don't think this makes much difference, but, I mean, technically, they got a permit. We've issued them a ticket for violating the permit. I guess we could require them to get a new permit, but I would think what we want is we want them to make it, we want them to put the fence in compliance.
Exactly.
Or remove it, can it be, bring it into compliance or remove it altogether?
Yeah.
I thought that they have put the fence without a permit, and that's
No,
what the issue
they
was.
got a permit.
They got a permit?
They started, it's my understanding, they started
Mhm.
putting the fence up, it was brought to their attention, they didn't have a permit, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they went down there and they asked for a permit, and they were given a permit.
After the fact.
Which, I don't, yeah, after the fact, but they were never told, they were never told to stop putting the fence up.
Okay.
That's where I think the city's wrong by not telling them, hey,
Well,
you have to have
well-
3 feet off of your property line.
There's a question, where's the 3 feet? Where's the line?
Well,
At the time-
the
at the time,
Joneses,
there
There was
wasn't
no
a
survey
survey
at that
done
time.
yet.
Well, but that's their responsibility. They can't just go put a fence up without checking. I put a fence up. I made sure I had my property line surveyed.
That's you.
Yeah, so what gives him the right to, and not only did he not put it 3 feet off of his property line, he put it 3.5, 4 feet, whatever it is, on her property.
Absolutely.
And he had to have known he done that.
Yeah.
But
So,
prove it. That's the
well,
problem.
We did prove it. It's been surveyed.
Now we have, but at the time, you
Hold on,
couldn't.
hold on, let me see if I can put some standards.
I just think it's
We're
wrong.
good in a hurry.
At the time the fence went in, there was no survey where the line actually was. And there's a dispute, as I understand it, as to what level, if there was any agreement at all. It wasn't in writing, so it doesn't matter to us. But we weren't in a position, as the fence was there, to say that fence doesn't comply until that survey came. Once that survey came, then the action's been here.
Right.
Okay, so I don't think as a city, we should take the position that our department should have, our enforcement department should have dealt with it right then, because we didn't have the evidence as to where that line was. As soon as we got to checking into it, as soon as I got to checking into it, the very first thing I found out is there was a dispute, not only about where the fence was, but about what had been agreed to. So I think our department did the right thing, and I think you're doing the right thing now.
So I think we have tentatively a motion here to draft a letter. I assume that would come from our city attorney's office, and it would be asking that they put the fence into compliance with the permit that was issued.
I'm gonna need somebody to get me a copy of the survey. I don't
Okay.
have a copy of the survey, never have seen a copy of
As
the survey.
attorney,
All I've seen is the stakes.
I believe that, that Ms. Jones had her survey filed with the county, is that correct? Did you have that filed?
I thought I told Bob to do it, but I may not have been. They said I could call them at any time, and they
Okay.
could put the records at the courthouse.
Okay.
Could you get us a copy of that survey?
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Regina.
Did Ash Attorney, and
If-
you can do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other
All right.
direction?
I don't think we ever voted.
A question, we didn't vote, but what Alderman Voss said, are we drafting the city attorney drafting a letter to move the fence into compliance of property lines or remove it altogether? Or is the remove it altogether not in this?
I think the motion should be
In
to
compliance.
either bring it in compliance with the ordinance, copy of which is attached, in accordance with the survey, a copy of which is attached, or remove it.
Okay.
We demand they either bring it in compliance
Or remove it.
Within
Okay.
30 days, is that?
Is that a reasonable amount of time?
Within 30 days.
That's what I was gonna ask, was how many days?
Within 30
Okay,
days.
30 days,
So
all right.
that
So
is-
we
was that
have a
your
motion. We
Okay.
don't have a second.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, Danny Bratton second that motion.
Okay.
Do we need a roll call, Attorney Heller, or, okay, all in, yes?
I'm sorry, before you go on, I do have one question. When you send that letter telling them to move the fence into compliance, will there be something in there that says that they must put the ground back to where it originally was? So he's not leaving us with holes in our yard?
That and the water problem are not issues we can deal with.
Okay, well, that's what I'm just wondering, because.
We can deal with where the fence is.
Because we're doing fence dispute, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any further okay, we have a motion by Alderman Voss, and we have a second by Alderman Brad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. There is no, there's nothing under new business. Do we have any public comment? Okay, with that being said, I will close the Public Improvement Committee.
Thank you, Alderman Bastian. Takes us to Public Works, Alderman Bratton.
Well, under old business, last meeting, we voted Illini Asphalt offered to sell it for $7,500, and we voted to cut the price of it in half to $4,000. Bill Simon himself, an engineer, and Bill's daughter, I'm sure she works there, Mayor Stevens and I met with them approximately at 1 o'clock today and went over that street and explained some stuff. And from what I gathered, the reason that you're seeing the alligator cracks in it and a row of bricks where there's a joint all the way down through that street is because of the fact that we did not pay, and it was not under their contract, and we didn't do the part that would have eliminated that, which was to blow the cracks out or cut them out and fill them before they did that process. I'm going to let the mayor correct me on anything that I've said there or add to what he needs to do. So what they made an offer to do was to settle for $6,000, which is actually below their cost.
Yeah, you know, we went out there and met with them, and I think they agreed that it was sort of a messy project, and we obviously understand that it wasn't a great day for them or their equipment, and you know, it was a situation where we certainly didn't get what we expected, but it's kind of difficult to enter into this type of experimental, if you want to call it that, treatment for a roadway, and when something goes wrong, you know, just hold their feet completely to the fire. So, you know, I think the $6,000 compromise is reasonable, and I'd be willing to accept it.
Can we even vote on this because it's not on the agenda?
I don't think we can. I don't know. It was,
I don't know that we can either.
Can we, Ed?
Can we?
No.
That's
But
what
I thought it was relevant that we bring it up. We met today. And I also thought it was not awful nice that the owner of E.T. Simon's Construction was there.
I'm glad they'll connect.
Ms. Hughes?
Did we know that it could be better if we did something, some pre-work?
I was not personally aware of that, but, you know,
And they did not inform me.
I don't really know that. And I think someone up here had a question, or you had a question, Mr. Irvis.
Well, I was
We'll get to the others.
I was just gonna ask, can it be striped? What, I mean, there's no markings on it.
No, that was weather related.
Okay. Okay. So that's something that we can still do.
And to talk to us about the prep work, I mean, we all recognize that some of that needed some prep work, but I think when their time schedule in putting this down, they indicated that their crew could not come back in here for another 3 or 4 weeks. So if we waited on their crew to come in and do the prep work, then we probably would have been in a situation where weather would have been too bad to do the experimental work. So that's why the decision was made to go ahead with work.
Mrs. Campos?
Yeah, and then I do have a problem with that because, I mean, we are expecting for them to do a good job. And, yeah, we can always say the weather, yeah. But, you know, they are the professionals and they are the ones who are supposed to provide the services. So, you know, it is what it is, but I wish that I would have been there because I proved that I'm good bargaining at the market, so. That's all I have to say. No, it is just, really, I have a problem with that, because if they know that the project is not going to be good as it's supposed to be, then don't do it. Because we are left with a mess somehow. And it's not appealing, and the weather and whatever. We should have waited. And they should have recommended to us to wait. Because they are the professionals. We're not, we're just the city.
Mr. McComb?
Harold, you know, they talk about the prep work, but I don't think they give Darren any notice that they were coming in.
No, nobody had noticed.
And
it was the whole thing. I mean, we just got a call out of the blue that they had this product and they were looking for some places to put it down.
well, the thing I didn't like about it, just as bad as the finish, is the fact that our people had to go out and flag traffic. And when they bid a job, Simon, and I've worked for them enough, they don't come in and ask the cities to do their flag work and stuff unless they put that in a bid somewhere.
Well, it was specified.
Huh?
It was on paper that they weren't responsible for any cleanup and or traffic control wasn't in there. I mean, it did say that. I mean, there's not a signed contract, but there was a quote from them to do this work.
Well, I don't think Darren knew that, or Tim Lee, either one. I mean, I go along with paying them the $6,000. We owe it. But if they ever come in and do any work for us again, our public works should know a few days in advance that they're coming in if we're going to have to handle traffic control.
And typically we do. I mean, they are.
I mean, it's the whole deal from the get-go, because they had their oil ready, was a bad deal when they come over.
Sure.
I mean, their spreader wasn't working right, and I still think that's part of the gaps that you got where the water set, is they didn't get the gravel over to the other set of gravel when it was just.
Well, I mean, the main problem was the spreader not working right. Is
Yeah.
They overspread.
The whole job started out on a bad note. That's all I have.
Is there any other aldermen have a question? Alderman Voss.
Well, I think that they've owned their shortcomings, and I think that by them taking a loss on the project, but that traditionally this has been a good vendor for the city, and I think that we should pay them the $6,000.
They do good work.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
if there's no other questions from the council, I would entertain.
We can't make a
that.
motion.
Can't make a
We
motion.
Think about this and put it on the agenda for next time.
That's pretty sly.
I almost fell off that roof.
You still got it.
I'm halfway down. All right, make fun of an old man, I'm used to it.
That's pretty quick thinking for an old man, though.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Darren, what street is that in front of Public Works? Is that, 11th? Huh?
North
12th. Okay. Been brought to my attention, 12th Street for one block, the one that runs in front of Public Works, that it would be very beneficial to people at Public Works if that was made into a one-way street, because when somebody's coming up the hill from the north and to put a sign just past the repair shop there.
Yeah.
Henry
Auto Works.
Auto Works.
Yeah, Auto Works, put a sign there, one-way street, which would be going south. If that was one way, that would eliminate when the Public Works guys are pulling out and backing out, because when they're coming up that hill that's pretty steep incline, they can't see them until it's almost too late. To complicate it, continue going north and stop at the first intersection there. You have to get part of your vehicle out into the road traffic going east and west to see around the corner, because our building's in the way. That would eliminate that problem and a possible wreck. So I want to bring that up. It's not on the agenda, but I think it's something that we should discuss. And then if we want to go further with that and act on that, we can.
Would you guys wanna go out and down the hill every time you leave out of Public
No.
Works?
And I heard the argument today, but I've almost been hit down there by Auto Works on many occasions. The people, they fly around that corner just as fast as they come up our hill. And I understand who brought that up too, but
I mean, it's more-
it's just as dangerous down there as it is up here, so, you know.
I mean, it's more convenient.
The only way
It's a
to
gamble,
eliminate
huh?
it is to shut the road off, and then we'll have to go that way, you know.
But it hasn't been any accidents yet.
No.
Okay.
You need to direct.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on that? Because it's just a discussion matter. If not, any public comment? I guess we'll come out of Public Works, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That takes us into public safety, chaired by Mr. Russell Brown. Russell is not feeling well, so he is absent this evening. Handle these items. We don't have any old business. Under new business, we have a consideration of an ordinance amending the definition of pedal. And I don't think that means a bicycle. So is this a solution in search of a problem, or what do we have?
This is another one of those, we started heavily enforcing ordinances we have, the peddling ordinance, which has come up with repeated things. First, the energy resellers, and we had to amend the ordinance to cover that. The Kirby vacuum people actually got a lawyer, we arrested several of them, they got a lawyer trying to loophole in our ordinance. So Ben and I met, and then Ben met with Ed, and we came up with just cutting language from it that solves the problem, and hopefully it finally closes the seams on that peddling ordinance. But this is just ordinances that we're enforcing now, and we just keep finding things that get challenged, and we gotta fix them.
Very good.
We need a motion to pass that?
Yeah.
I make that motion.
I'll
That
second
has to
it.
be a roll call.
Yeah.
But
All
you're
right.
making the motion.
Yeah.
Who's
I'll
seconding?
second it.
All right.
All
Ask
right.
for roll call vote.
Alderman Hughes?
Yes.
Alderman Curry Witzman?
Yes.
Alderman Voss?
Yes.
Alderman McComb?
Yes.
Alderman Urbis?
Yes.
Alderman Bratton?
Yes.
Alderman Bastian?
Yes.
Alderman Campos?
Yes.
Alderman Pittman?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Any public comment under items of public safety? All right, hearing none, seeing none, that'll take us out of public safety, and we'll go to the Personnel Committee chaired by Ms. Barb Hughes.
There really is nothing listed, although Mark is here with copies for us of the new FOP contract. And I think that he probably answered everything that we really had questions about before, but Mark, I'll turn it over to you, let you hand out those.
We voted to approve
We've
this
already
already.
Yeah, when I was
Approve
here
it.
last, I told you about the contract or the terms of it, and you voted to approve it subject to
Language.
getting acceptable language, and I have it. It took them a long time. The lawyer with the FOP insisted on drafting it, and they did, and I didn't finally get an acceptable final copy until a week ago or so. And so I just wanted to present it to you because I need to have it signed.
All right.
And so I'll give them to you. You can arrange for signatures for the city. And then if you'll send me a couple of them back so that I can forward them to the FOP to get their signatures. I will, in fact, you probably ought to send me 3 of them. I'll send them over to get the FOP's signatures.
How many signatures are needed? Not sure.
Yeah, let me look real quick. That had been just.
I mean, I'd be happy to sign them right now and just hand them right back to you if you want.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Or we could wait, it doesn't matter,
No,
Mark.
it's,
You see this guy. I
just
can
you
send
and
him
one of the
down.
there's a line for a council member be the chair of the committee. And that's
Okay.
it. It's on page 24.
What about on page, the final page? Is that all for the union, the very final page of the contract?
Well, the final page should be the dues deduction form.
Ah, okay.
You don't need to worry. So they sign on opposite your signatures on page 24.
Okay.
Got black ink pen?
I have
It says First Bank and Trust on it. Is that a good pin, WJ?
You're not gonna use the same pen to sign all those, are you? I mean, I watch it on TV, they go 2 letters and.
Yeah, ceremonial,
It only
so-
takes about 12 pens to say yes.
Let's see if you're a big fan.
I tell you, if I really thought I was that important, I'd need to be fired. Let's see here.
You guys worked really hard on this.
Mark
Why don't you go ahead and sign that one as well?
Okay.
And I'll take them down to Barb.
Page 24.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're most welcome, thank you.
Okay, have a good one.
And I'll come to see you. We gotta resolve. Set it up that.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome.
See ya.
And then we'll all get copies of these once he files everything, if you want one.
Can we play Peace in the Valley by
Yeah,
somebody now?
Mark should have brought a bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
We owe him a.
When's this contract expire?
Next year.
About a week.
I was gonna say, I wonder when, sure we don't need to start negotiating now?
April the 30th of 2020.
Okay, I'll be going.
April 30, 2020.
So I propose we start negotiating April 30th of 2019.
Yeah.
Just throwing that
That's
out.
good, thank you.
Took about a year, no?
They ought to have something in there, if you can't settle within 6 months, everything stays the same.
Yeah, we got a good understanding.
Yeah, well,
Per
we got some
wages,
good change.
per wages.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's old business, and there's no new business listed. The only thing is, we have hired a new person for Public Works, and did they begin yesterday? Karen? Did,
This coming Monday.
this coming Monday, I was thinking it was the 22nd.
Roy Phoenix.
Roy Phoenix will be beginning with us next Monday, as a full-time employee of Public Works.
This was the fourth time I had interviewed Mr.
No,
Phoenix.
it's the
so
third time, I think, that I
It
interviewed
was,
him.
he was more than ready, I believe.
Yeah. He really is a person that, well, number one, he has some good skill. He has worked for us part-time in the summertime, for several years, 3 summers, I think he worked for us, and has truly, any time we have had a, opening either at wastewater treatment or Public Works, has come in for interviews. So, the gentleman needs a good job, he wants to work, and he is a hard worker, so I'm real happy to have him.
All right.
And,
Good bocce player too.
is he a
Yes,
bocce
he is.
player? Well, he is good then, isn't he? There's no new business that I'm aware of. Any public comment on personnel? Hearing none, we can come out of that, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hughes. That takes us to the mayor's report. I did want to let the alderman know that that sponsorship we approved earlier for the Women's Center, that event is February the 9th at the Carbondale Civic Center. I do have 8 tickets that come along with that table, and so I just extend the offer to anybody that's on the council that wishes to go. Just let me know, and be happy to make those available on a first-come, first-serve basis. I think it starts at 6 or 6:30 that evening, and as you might assume, it's all sorts of chocolate dishes, and there's a dinner and music and whatnot.
It's a nice event.
It is a nice event.
I do too.
So you're welcome to come, and if you want to, let me know. And if not, I'll go by myself and just eat everybody else's portion.
That'd be good.
And
head to the hospital.
And head to, yeah, because the hospital's right across the street thereafter. But I could, at this time, I'd ask for we need to have an executive session this evening to discuss employee matters and the potential acquisition of property, and so I'd entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did
Thank
Schreiber or whoever, was, they get a hold of you today?
I'll try to contact them in the morning.
That's fine. I'm just curious. Thank
Did we
you.
ever get the trucks?
Huh?
The trucks?
We do have the
Oh, yeah, we
trucks,
got
yes.
them.
Yeah, the last time I was at police cars and I saw them.